Hi folks, I'm Jasmine, as most of you know, and for the lesson I chose to evaluate for this activity was my macromolecules lesson, which I did in mid-October. This lesson, I decided to present the information via PowerPoint and had students take notes following along with the PowerPoint. And then afterwards, I had them participate in an activity I designed where the macromolecules were printed out on note cards, as well as their descriptions and their examples. And then students had to go to the lab tables and match them up. And at the end of their worksheet, they had to write down what they thought was correct. And then as a class, we went over which ones were correct or what was the correct matchings. And at the very end of their worksheet, they had a question which served as their exit slip, which they handed to me as they were leaving the classroom, and I kept that as a record. As far as the cultural responsiveness of this lesson, the strategies I use are very slim. For example, I only used strategy 3, which was the decorations and displays, which not very specific to this lesson because I didn't decorate the classroom, my mentor did. Around the classroom, he has models that were made by previous students. He also has posters around the room of different biomes or habitats around the world, like tundra, desert, rainforest. And this gives a more inclusive feeling to the classroom. And again, that's mostly on his part. He designed the decorations of his classroom. And that kind of plays into incorporating different cultures because students from different parts of the world can feel included in that classroom. The other strategy I used was strategy 41, which was judicious use of humor, which I use a lot in my teaching. It comes naturally. I like to be sarcastic with the kids, and it makes them laugh, gets them a little more engaged in the material, and I really enjoy that part of it. There were some strategies that I could have incorporated, which I plan to. Strategy 43, pop culture. Students, I really connect with students on pop culture. Any viral video, that's the thing that they're talking about. If I reference something like that, they really get excited about that in our conversations at lunch or even in the hallway, and I can totally bring that into the classroom as well, get students a little more engaged. Strategy 13, getting student attention. Not bad at that, it's just students get very rowdy and I'm not as loud as my mentor, so I need to find my thing. You know, each teacher has their own way of getting students' attention, whether it be turning off the lights, counting down from 10, or even singing a song. But I just need to find my thing that I can enact next semester to get their attention right away. Moving on to the Danielson evaluation of this lesson. As far as Domain 1, planning and preparation, I gave myself a proficient. I did plan a week in advance, and I did take time to talk with the learning support teacher on our team to be sure that our co-taught course students would be able to understand the worksheet that I had made for them and kind of make sure that if there were any adaptations that were necessary for those students that I had time to do that. I also tried to incorporate different learning styles in this lesson. For example, I did a PowerPoint for visual learners. I did notes for those that need to write things down, the linguistic learners. I also discussed what was on the PowerPoint for those that learn best with verbal instruction. And I had the activity planned at the end of the lesson to play to the interests of those that work best in collaborative settings. As far as Domain 2, the classroom environment, I gave myself a proficient because students feel safe in contributing to the discussion. They weren't very shy. The room is also, like I said, it's decorated with a lot of different work from different students. It's a very inclusive setting, and everyone seems to treat each other with respect, and in regards to opinions and views. Again, I owe my mentor some credit here as well. It's his classroom, so he's kind of cultivated that feeling in the room, and I admire him for that. Domain 3, the instruction, I gave myself a basic because when it did come time to do the activity, I think I moved a little too fast through the material and students were a little confused at parts, and they really needed the homework to take home and come back and to reinforce the information. Also, during the instruction, the questions I asked were not truly open per se. They had many different answers, but they were one-word answers and didn't need a lot of explanation. So next time I give a lesson like this, I want to be sure to ask those open questions, but be sure to give students time to give an explanation. Domain 4, the professional responsibilities, I gave myself between a proficient and a basic because I don't really talk much with families. Mostly my mentor does. That's seen as my mentor's responsibility, although I have had interactions with parents, but that normally comes down to my mentor. I also don't go to district project or don't get involved with district projects because I'm not a part of the district. But I do go to professional development days. I did keep records of students' work in this lesson, and I reflected on the lesson here and in my PDS final as well. I also did make a point to ask students for their feedback on the activity to see if it was something that we could maybe use in the future. So in the end, I think this lesson went well, but there are some things I still need to work on as a teacher, which I will do in the next semester.